Hey, what's up? What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Taryn Swears. A really popular topic we're going to talk about today, as a matter of fact. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, you get to see the results of my new laminated eyebrows. To me, they're really dark right now. If you've never heard of what laminating your eyebrows are, go Google search it. They actually use a henna, almost like a henna tint. So it's really dark. If you guys have ever gotten a henna before, henna stays really dark on your skin until it's kind of I don't know, the crusty part of it falls off, and then it's this beautiful kind of brown hue. And that's kind of the idea behind these. So they're a little intense right now. If you're like, what is up with her? Something's different. I had a client this morning. He's like, did you do something different with your hair? And I was like, no, but I got my eyebrows colored. He's like, that's it. So, those of you that are listening on your favorite podcast platform, just envision like perfectly arched dark eyebrows. All right. Okay. Back to our topic at hand. One that I get asked a lot, and I really want to break it down for you guys. I actually cover this in my masterclass, and I go into great detail in my Become Macro Minded course. So be on the lookout because registration is going to be opening soon for that in April. That's the second time this year I will open it. I only open this course 4 times a year. I take everybody through. We kind of follow through week by week. Some act on the content and start applying it right away. Others are the type that just need to absorb the information and slowly start to implement things one at a time and layer, which is fantastic too. And I also have those that are rip the band-aid off, I'm going all in type of thing. So be on the lookout for that because enrollment will open. And then once it's closed until our 3rd installment of the year. And I always open with a masterclass just to kind of give you something right out of the gates to be able to follow and just start to appreciate the change in direction and maybe the thought process when it comes to nutrition. All right. So regardless of where you're at in your journey of, I'm using air quotes if you guys can't see, dieting, we're going to talk specifically about when to change up your diet, but what I really mean is your macro plan. All right. So if you're following a macro-based diet, I'm going to use diet and calories loosely. I think that gets the point across. However, I'm going to emphasize that I don't mean dieting. Like, I don't want this to be a diet that is short-lived and something that is sole purpose is for immediate weight loss, and that's it. That's not our goal. Okay, so our goal is to generate habits and routines that are going to be lifestyle oriented that you can mix and match based on what your physical goals are from a body composition perspective, because everyone goes through a different season of life, right? We're not always should be in weight loss mode. We shouldn't always be in I'm going for as much muscle as possible mode either, because that kind of wears off over time as well. And you know what? You need to mix things up just to kind of keep the body guessing, but also so you're still interested in the process and it could still very much be a part of your life. So we're going to talk about, first off, what each phase of a macronutrition plan is, when to recognize what phase you are in, and also maybe what you should be targeting, like what direction should you be going based on where you're at right now. What's appropriate for just starting, right? Again, no matter where you're at in your nutrition journey, everyone's starting somewhere. You might be very green and new to going, what the hell is she even talking about? What the fuck are macros? I'm gonna explain what those are too, okay? So we'll go really back to the basics. But all of this is covered in a greater detail in my masterclass, and then also in a bigger and better deeper dive. We handle this in my entire course. It's an 8-week course that will open for enrollment here in April. All right, so stay tuned to that. But we'll talk about when to adjust and then what to do exactly as you learn, hey, I need to adjust my macros, AKA my diet plan. Okay, so that being said, let's jump into it. And let's peel it back a little bit. I'm going to talk specifically about what macronutrients are. So those of you that aren't familiar with the terminology or just sort of macronutrients, your protein, fats, and carbohydrates. All right. You consume macronutrients every single day, whether you realize it or not, tracking them or not. Everybody that's eating food has, each food is attached to a calorie that has a macro component to it. Now, whether it is a good macro component, whether it's a good protein, a good fat, or a good carbohydrate, that's for another story. And we're going to get to that on how to recognize and make those changes so they can be sustainable and applicable to where you're at right now. But if you are somebody that's physically active, you are walking, you're hiking, you're doing yoga, you're hitting the gym and crushing the weights, maybe going to your cycle class or your Peloton, you have to eat, right? And you're doing those things probably for a health reason of some sort, whether you're trying to drop body fat or increase lean muscle, or maybe just cardiovascular health right now, or even just to keep your body moving. You got to eat. So why not pair those two, your workouts, with eating properly for your body, so you're not doing, it's not a wasted effort. Like, who fucking wants to work out for zero gains out of it, right? And not weight gain, but just, results. I know that I work out because I want to see the fruits of my labor. I want to see more muscle tone, right? I'm 44. Like, I want to see more muscle tone. I don't need to see the flabby shit. There's plenty of that, but I'm trying to tone that down. You see like the emphasis in my face. And the eyebrows are always going to look surprised right now. But I want to see the fruits of my labors. I want to see my efforts pay off. And, for those that know me and know how active I am, you might be like, oh, how can you even tell? Trust me, I can tell and see difference in my efforts at the gym or lack thereof. All right. And especially eating, I'm not perfect. I do follow a macro-based diet, and I have one that's appropriate for what my body composition goals are. I'm not tracking constantly. Okay. There's a season for that, but those of you that are working towards results and need to start somewhere, let's figure out what that is. So we talked about macros. Those are your protein, your fats, and your carbohydrates. Those are all critical elements of nutrition that everybody that is physically active and or not as physically active should be consuming. Okay. There's so much misinformation out there, which is a hot topic right now, that eliminating one of these macronutrient food groups is going to help support weight loss faster. I mean, that and, umpteen dozen other topics you can go find on the interwebs. But eliminating any of these, whether or overproducing on one, for instance, doing a super high fat, high protein diet, can be more damaging on those, and then others it actually might benefit. So everybody's different. However, I do think having an appropriate amount of macronutrition for your body is going to serve you well and in the long run. And then you're going to be educated to know when it's time to dial it up or change things up. And I want to arm you with those tools even in today's episode. Okay. So now you guys know what macronutrients are, and how are you going to recognize that you're eating them? I want you guys to start tracking somehow, some way. All right. Just start becoming aware. I don't want you to overthink it. I don't want you to write down what you think would look better. I want you to write down exactly what you eat and drink, everything. Okay. And if you're not measuring anything, then just write everything down. You can use a pen and paper if you're old school. You can just use your notes on your phone, or MyFitnessPal is a free app, and there's tons of other apps out there that can document and log food. A lot of them are really slick and advanced now. You can actually scan labels and it will populate it based on the recommended serving of that item. And you can manipulate the serving size based on what you're consuming. So start there. If you haven't started anything and you're like, okay, this whole macro thing, I'm curious about it, start there. I tell all my clients, all I want you to do for 2 weeks is to just start tracking. It is called the awareness phase. You're just becoming aware of what you're eating. And when you are aware, you start to make better choices as you become more intentional about what you're going to consume, because you have to write it down. And I really want to emphasize, writing it down should not mean torture. It should not mean diet. It should not mean restrictive. It should not have a negative experience. It is just data. You're literally collecting data. What you eat, you're writing down. And hey, if you want a little extra work, write down how it made you feel. After you get in the swing of writing things down, how did you sleep? How's your energy? How's your mood? Ladies, how's your PMS symptoms? Are you like raging hormones, or you're like, well, you know what? They were bad this month, or I actually got my cycle on time. Sometimes our nutrition can fuck with our hormones, and I do talk a lot about that in my course. So we'll spend just a minute amount of time on that, just because hormones are super relevant to the process, and I'm not going to do a deep dive in them quite in this episode, but if you aren't consuming the proper amounts of macronutrients, your hormones get dismantled. You do find that you are going to have worse period symptoms. Maybe your cycle will be all over the board. Your mood might be unstable, more so than if you did have a proper amount of macronutrients. Your recovery or your efforts in the gym might suffer just because you don't have that energetic input, right? That food, that fuel, because maybe you're having too many calories in the carbohydrate department and they're just shitty, useless carbohydrates, right? Call it what it is. Maybe having too many fats, too many processed foods, too many fast foods that are littered with a bunch of preservatives and things that are just unnecessary, and maybe have good intentions behind them, or they're deemed healthy, but for you and what your body needs and your hormones, it might not be. And the only way you're going to be able to decipher that and learn to figure that out is by writing it down or tracking it, because you are the only one that knows exactly how your body feels after you consume something. You know that you feel like shit if you have too much sugar. You probably feel like shit if you drink too much. Too much fast food might feel a little heavy, lethargic, guilty. That can weigh a ton. Not eating enough, you can probably find that you're super inflamed and maybe got some joint pain. Energy sucks, come noon, 12 or noon, 1, 3 o'clock, your energy is just completely depleted. Your hormones are depleted. And so your mood and your ability to process information tactfully is sparse. So there's a whole lot that goes into that. And the only way you get to figure that out by writing it down. I couldn't tell you how to feel based on eating any one thing. I can't tell you, you know what, go eat. This is why I don't do custom meal plans. Because I could, put a whole meal plan together of foods that I think are perfectly balanced macro wise, delicious. And then I send it to you and you're like, oh my God, you gag reflexes, right? That's what I'm doing right now, is gagging. Because there's Brussels sprouts on there. Maybe you absolutely distaste Brussels sprouts and the thought of them make you gag or throw up in your mouth. All of a sudden, guess what happened to that meal plan I just gave you? It's a diet, right? I remember when I was getting into nutrition, I wanted somebody to set my macros for me and produce a meal plan I could follow, because I'm like, just tell me what to do. I don't want to think about it. I had two young kids at the time, and I just didn't have any more capacity in me. Guess what? I followed it for maybe 3 days. And then I was like, dude, this is so boring. I hate it, because it was a diet. It was something like, here, follow this. It was a diet. It was not anything that was a part of my lifestyle. It was nothing that I had a say in, that I found joy behind, because I was I was creating foods that I liked. Because you should like this process. You should be able to eat the foods that you like. You might have to kind of reappropriate some of them and have a different relationship with them. Because if you're like, oh, sweet, Taryn said I should be able to like eating this, so I can have my pizza and my cupcakes and my ice cream and my beer, okay, settle down. Not to be Captain Obvious, but those things are not healthy, and those things are fun foods and should be sprinkled in there, but not to be an everyday thing. And they're certainly not a cheat food. We should have a full podcast on cheat days. I hate the terminology, for the record. I think cheat days are bullshit. I think that it is an opportunity for people to totally binge and overdo it on their cheat day. Instead, it should be just an everyday, a treat day. If you're going to have something, because I feel like going out to dinner and having a steak with mashed potatoes, and that might be to some people a cheat meal. Fuck it. I want you to actually have it, because you look forward to enjoying every bit of the effort that goes into being there. And with the person, you have to enjoy the experience. And that alone tends to drop people's cortisol levels when they take the fear and the guilt away from the food that they're consuming and just be present in the experience and the person they're with and the intention of that activity or event and what it's supposed to be. That just takes the edge off. That just makes the process more enjoyable. And you see how that can change your relationship with it. I never feel guilty going out to dinner. Do I make different choices now than maybe I would have in the past? Absolutely. Like in the past, I would have done the hamburger and the French fries, or I would do the hamburger and then I'd eat my kids' French fries and have the side salad that I'd pretend to eat. But now, like, I don't want to waste my money on a shitty hamburger at a restaurant. I don't. I would rather make the hamburger at home myself because I know exactly how it's going to taste. Nothing worse than getting a hamburger you look excited, you're all excited about, and it be burnt and overdone, even though you asked for a medium, right? So I would rather get something I can guarantee is going to make me feel full and satisfied and not be full of guilt. So one of my favorite meals when we go out here in the Eagle, Idaho area is Bardnay's. It's, I think it's a national restaurant, so you probably have one in your market. I love the Buddha bowl, and I add salmon and all the dressings on the side. But that's just what I've become to enjoy myself because I would rather be in control of what I put on it versus them like drowning my meal in dressings or marinades, because I don't have a taste for those anymore. My taste buds have changed, and yours will as well as you start to pivot and think differently about your food choices and what you prepare them with or pair them with. All right, so prepare and pair. So let's talk about what each phase is in a macronutrition based nutrition strategy. Okay, so that was a very long term to say nutrition or to say diet. Because I don't like saying diet. You might hear me kind of sprinkle it through there. But also talking about the caloric needs that your body requires in order to meet where you're at and where you're trying to go physically, right? So I say body composition. I hate it when people say, I want to be this weight. Why? What would that even mean? And what does that make up, right? Like, what does that number mean as far as your body composition? Does that mean that it carries a certain amount of muscle tone and a certain body fat you're comfortable with, or is it just a number on the scale? Because any number can be obtained, but your goal, especially as you're an aging female, like 35 and older, as your hormones begin to decline, our body doesn't reproduce hormones as it did in our younger years. So we sometimes have to get reinforcement, but we can also neutralize them by our diet, our exercise, our environmental factors, sleep, hydration, that kind of thing. So if you aren't getting that in, then, that's when we can kind of run into trouble. So establishing what the caloric needs are for your body and the body composition of your dreams or your goal for this season. Okay. When I say season, like you might have a different goal in spring, summer, winter, fall, you might. But I do want you to think not summer and bathing suits. I want you to think like in the winter, why are you getting healthy? Why are you working towards a goal body composition? Because if someone said, hey, we're going to the Bahamas, pack your bags, and it's January, I want you to be stoked and be like, hell yeah, I'm going to get a tan because I look good and I'm stoked to be in a bathing suit. I've worked on it all year long. It's not I'm going to get bathing suit ready in the spring or summer. Okay. So we need to cut that bullshit out. And that also comes with changing our relationship with food. Okay. But your body goes through adjustments through each season. That's why I brought that up, especially hormonal, right? So our hormones adjust with the barometer, with the weather patterns, with the daylight. So we just went through daylight savings. There's a big discussion whether or not we're going to continue with that. I know Arizona doesn't. So there's a lot that changes with that element as well on people that are sensitive and have hormone deficiencies or just, very sensitive hormonally. That can make an impact too. I know the barometer impacts a lot of people physically as well. So recognizing where you need to be. And so I'm going to give you kind of the span of that and then what those mean. So the 4 phases in a macronutrition strategy is reverse. I'm going to break all these down. Don't worry. A cut, maintenance, and bulk. You've probably heard of all of those. But if you haven't, a reverse is basically taking you from a very low caloric diet, which you might be consuming right now, which you'll know if you start tracking, and it's reversing, so adding, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually adding calories on to meet what your daily energy expenditure is. Okay, and your total daily energy expenditure is made up of 4 different components. All right, so I do cover that in a little bit more detail in my masterclass and in my course, but I'll share it with you really quick so you can go Google it. This isn't like secret. None of what I'm sharing, you guys, is a secret, right? This isn't going to be like, you're never going to hear this anywhere else but on my podcast or in my course. Like, my course is just to inform you. I want to educate people. I'm sick and tired of people wanting to be told what to do. I was that person. So I want to educate you. And when you have some history and knowledge behind it, you're more apt to be excited about the process. Okay. So you have 4 components that make up your total daily energy expenditure. Then I'll get back to finishing what reverse meant. BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, and that's the amount of energy that your body requires just to breathe, sleep, live, exist. Sit on the couch, okay? Your BMR. Your thermic effect of food. So it's the amount of energy that it takes for your body to digest and process different foods that you eat. If you guys, pay any attention to science, or if you dove into nutrition in any regard, you'll know that different foods have a different heat value in what it takes to break down, right? Your body will break down, let's say, a piece of broccoli differently than it would break down, say, a steak. I know they're not apples to apples, but the energy of both of those are very different. So your body's going to require that much different energy to break down broccoli versus steak, okay? So that is your thermic effect of food. Your non-exercise activity, thermogenesis. Okay, so that is just the energy that you expend talking with your arms like I do, fidgeting, pacing if you're on a phone call or you're listening to my podcast and you're doing the dishes, that kind of stuff. And then lastly, your exercise. So the amount of calories that you are estimated to burn during a workout. Now, let me just caveat this part. I don't give 2 flying shits how many calories you burn in a workout, because whatever your heart rate monitor and your little snazzy watch is tracking is not accurate. Nor the treadmill or the elliptical. Those aren't accurate. They are estimated, and it's a range. And yes, it can be good data, but don't assume, oh, I just burned 600 calories. Who gives a shit? As long as you are nourishing yourself to accompany that energy output, right? What that effort that you just put in your workouts, that's all that matters. That you're meeting that input with the effort, that output through your workout. Okay, you should never worry about the calories, because you're not going to go and eat back the 600 calories that you ate. That's not the goal. And when you do your calculations, which I do have a free guide that walks you through it all, it's a little sheet on Adobe Acrobat. You guys can go on my bio and go download it. It's free. You can plug in your own numbers and it spits it out for you. But I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, man, it's old. It's hard getting old. But again, not paying attention to the calories you burn, because when you do calculate your macros, then that will be considered. So when you get that final total daily energy expenditure goal, that includes what your exercise is, not, oh, and then you went and burnt this, go add that. Okay. So I wanted to make sure to talk a little bit about what that meant. So when we went back to understanding what the reverse, the cut, the maintenance, and the bulk meant, you knew you had some kind of baseline understanding of what that total daily energy expenditure is. So you're reversing, you're adding on calories to get to what your total daily energy expenditure is, or what that goal is based on your desired body composition. Meaning, if you are needing to lose 30 to 40 pounds, your body's going to require a certain amount of calories to be in a metabolic state to metabolize the food and be able to burn the calories and body fat required to get to that goal. Now it's going to take some time, so we're going to get there. Some people will reverse when they have been dieting on and off. They've done keto, then they jump to paleo, then they go back to water fasting, and then they fast for 2 days. They intermittent fast. They have protein. They don't have protein. They have dairy, no dairy. And then I'm going to go vegan. And then you're like, right? You've tried them all. They're probably like, ding, 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 ding. It's okay. It's okay. We've all been there. I've tried everything probably, which got me super fascinated about addressing a holistic approach to nutrition and why macronutrition is so relevant regardless of your physical activity. But most people I'm expecting to be active because you should be. Like, get off your ass. You shouldn't be sitting around doing a whole bunch of nothing. Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody is active. And if there's an injury involved, then obviously there's limitations, but doing some sort of physical activity should be your ultimate goal. So if you've been dieting on and off, doing a reverse is going to benefit you. If you've never gotten to your maintenance calories, talk about those in a minute. And this is a good one. I think people need to do a reverse, meaning add more calories if they think eating less is going to help them get results. So let that sink in. If you think, oh, I should eat less if I want to lose weight, you should be doing a reverse. You're like, what? Why would that? Doesn't make sense. It does, trust me. Because your mentality needs to be changed. The more energy you consume from food, you're going to be able to, your body's going to be able to utilize that more efficiently when you go and do your physical activity, that you're going to be like, oh my God, now I get what she means. Right? Sometimes you need to switch up and get out of a metabolic adaptation, which means that your body's just static. It's used to taking in such little calories that it's like, okay, well, anything I get in, I'm going to start storing, right, for energy later because I'm not getting in enough. So your body's having a hard time getting into that state of burning body fat because it might actually just be picking off your muscle. And nobody wants to do that, especially if you're lifting weights. Okay, so that was a reverse. A cut is when you might be over consuming your total daily energy expenditure. So you're eating more calories than your body needs in order to get to a adequate body composition, whether you are trying to lose weight, aka body fat, or you might be trying to gain weight, whatever it is, which you wouldn't be in a cut if you're trying to gain weight. So usually people that have about 50 pounds or so, even I would say between 30 and 50 or more, you're probably going to be in a cut because you've probably come from an excessive amount of calories. And you might be like, oh, I don't really eat all that bad during the day, but you might make up for it massively in the evenings and like whack down, 700 to 1,000 calorie meals and then go to bed, or you make up for it on the weekend, or you make up for it in alcohol. So that's when you're going to start paring back on the caloric intake, because you just need to eat less calories than you're burning. So if you're not burning enough because you're not physically active and you're consuming, let's say, a macronutrient diet made up of about 2,500 calories, and your body is really like only settling at like 1,600 calories because you're not super active, you have a desk job, and yes, you do go for walks with the dogs after work, they're not burning enough to warrant the 2,500 calories that you're consuming, which is why you're carrying more weight. Okay. All right. Maintenance. This should be like everybody's goal, like gunning to be at a maintenance. And a lot of people will come out of a reverse and a goal to get to their maintenance because they're consuming, again, a reverse, you're eating super low calorically, so you need to add more calories over time to get to that maintenance. And sometimes that is like people's end goal, and that they just go from reverse to maintenance and that's it. There's no cut. And sometimes just a natural cut happens when they go through that process. A lot of people see amazing results in maintenance phase because they're eating what their body's requirement is as far as the total daily energy expenditure, and it's efficient. So it's learning to metabolize efficiently so it can burn body fat and produce lean muscle. Again, that's your ultimate goal. So some people do see a drop in body fat while still eating a high volume of calories because their macros are appropriate to what their body needs at that moment. Okay. So maintenance is awesome and should be everyone's goal. The last one is, which isn't really one that I have many clients come to me with because we solve it a lot with a reverse, but it is the bulk phase. And that's when you're looking to truly produce a higher volume of muscle mass. Then you have to be eating an excess amount of calories in order to accommodate that. So a lot of bodybuilders, figure competitors, they'll go through that process. They'll go through a bulking phase and eat a higher volume of calories and macronutrients to produce and support Now, when I say a higher volume of calories, it is all intentional and is appropriated through proteins, fats, and carbohydrates so they can support the growth of the muscle. That's not just like, I always remember when Michael Phelps was like, I eat like 10,000 calories a day, and you think 10,000 calories, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go eat Chick-fil-A, and then I'm gonna have Chipotle, and then I'm gonna go to Starbucks and get a Frappuccino, and like, I don't know what his diet consists of, to be honest, or when he did make that statement, but I think that that, not that he meant to like send a message to anybody, but a lot of people can misinterpret what that means. He's obviously was impeccable shape and it worked for his sport, and his body required that amount of calories. And chances are, being an Olympian, he had a nutritionist on board, a registered dietitian, somebody to support that effort. But athletes and competitive athletes at that, those bodybuilders, figure competitors, those are more inclined to do that bulking phase. All right. So I just wanted to share what that was. So how to recognize which one you are in. You're not going to know unless you start tracking. So again, number one, track your food. You get out a pen and paper, get out your notes and your phone, or download an app like MyFitnessPal or any app that you've used in the past that you have experience with, and just start tracking. Again, tracking is what? You're collecting data. That's it. You're collecting data. It is not a judgment of your character, of the kind of person you are, who you are as a human in their community. It's just data. So I want you to think about it as just data. And then the natural process of that is it brings more awareness and intentionality to what you're going to consume. So think about it that way. And then once you start tracking, and if you've downloaded my Become Macro Minded guide, you can start plugging in what your current weight is, what your daily activity is, and it produces a number. And then whether or not you need to cut weight if you're trying to lose a higher volume of weight, or if you're trying to maintain because it's not as much, then you can decide based on those metrics to say, hey, you know what? I remember listening to Taryn's podcast. I think I'm going to reverse, because after tracking, I realized I'm only eating like 900 calories, which that was my biggest issue with 30-10. So I've had a lot of clients that have been on 30-10 because it works, because their whole pitch is you can lose 30 pounds in 10 weeks, which is insane, because and the reason why it works is because they're eating 900 calories. And I don't personally believe that is healthy, because I have yet to see someone that's gone through their program keep their weight off. I'm sure there's been people, and if you are one, let me know. I'd love to hear your story. I've researched it, and I don't believe that it is a healthy way for people to lose weight loss in a sustainable manner. And when I say sustainable, I mean, I want it to be something that it can be a part of your lifestyle, and you're not feeling restricted and limited, and you don't think it fucking sucks, right? Like, nothing sucks more than hating a process to get to an end goal, right? Like, if you're working towards a promotion, you hate every stage of it and getting that promotion, chances are that promotion is going to suck, right? It's probably not even going to be what you want because the work wasn't worth it to get there. The same with getting to your ideal body composition, okay? Because the work you put into it shouldn't suck. It shouldn't suck to eat food. It shouldn't suck to eat food. You shouldn't dread eating food. You should look forward to it. I can't wait till I can fucking eat next. I love food. I'm a volume eater, so I will find ways to add volume. And if you follow me on Instagram or my podcast or my website, you'll see that a lot of my foods, my meals, are volume based. And the meal ideas that I produce for my clients are the same. They're based on volume, meaning eat more that's going to be naturally lower in calories so you can consume more, right? And that's by way of certain vegetables and proteins. So it should be a really enjoyable process, and that you're learning a lot about yourself, more so than probably ever before, and that anyone be able to tell you, right? Like, I can give you prompts and I can give you like cues and things to identify through the process, but you're the only one that's going to be able to recognize and go, holy shit, you know what? I actually like Brussels sprouts. Or, man, I love broccoli, but it's been causing me so much gas. Or my favorite protein shake is causing me a lot of discomfort in my gut. And that's something that I've recently learned. It was clean, it was plant-based, and it took talking it out with a girlfriend of mine for her to go, maybe you should remove that protein shake and see if that's affecting you. Sure enough, I did. And the discomfort, the gas The bloating has subsided. Has it gone away completely? No, because I think I'm still kind of reeling from some of it. I mean, this is like years I've been taking it and I love it. And I'm so bummed because I love it. But it's just not working for me right now. Could it work for me in like 6 months? Probably. And you know, better bet I'm going to bring it back in and try. But this has just been a process of elimination of things that I'm subbing in and out. But am I releasing those calories and not reconsuming them with alternatives? No, I am finding alternatives to make sure that I get in the appropriate macros to support what my goal is. And that's maintaining a good, solid, healthy body fat and lean muscle that I can maintain. It doesn't feel like I'm torturing myself. Okay. So you're going to start tracking, and then you're going to decide after you know how many calories you're taking in, you go, oh, I need to be in a reverse. I need to be in a cut. Actually, I want to start in maintenance, and that's okay too, especially if you're close to eating the calories that your body requires right now. It's okay to start there. Okay. And it's okay if you get there in like 6 weeks or 6 months too. So every phase has to be something that you work and take your time getting into, especially if you've never eaten a macro dense diet before. You've never tracked protein, you've never tracked fat or carbohydrates. You have to start somewhere so it doesn't become overwhelming, and then learn how to add incrementally, right? If your goal is a reverse, you need to add calories, you need to do it incrementally. You cannot go from 60 grams of protein to 140 overnight. You have to take time, adding 10 grams per week until it's very standard and your body's like, I'm ready for more. You add 10 more grams. It's so easy to pick up extra grams of protein in a meal by just adding more volume. Okay, so that's always my trick, and that's always the direction that I take my clients, is saying, hey, let's just add an extra 5 grams of protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's just going to be maybe one more egg or a little bit of egg whites, or maybe just another ounce or two of chicken, or a little bit more tofu. Right? It's not going to change necessarily adding more meals to their day, but just more volume. All right. So I hope I gave you guys something to start and something to look forward to, or at least something to think about. And also just bring light to how macronutrition can be really conducive to where you're at now, and how it can be really applicable to your lifestyle, whether you are an elite athlete or you are just out walking. Everybody is eating. Like I said at the beginning of this, everybody is eating. You're choosing to eat food. Every food has a calorie, and every calorie of that food is attached to a macronutrient of some sort. And so however you're consuming and whatever you are, understanding what those are is really going to help benefit you. And that creates the sustainability in a strategy that's going to be more lifestyle oriented than anything. And it's going to serve you as a body from your body composition perspective, but also going to help you enjoy the process and release any of those past traumas or issues you've had. And not to say you'll be able to release all of the trauma, especially around food. And if you've had an eating disorder, it takes time, and you have to give yourself that. You cannot say, I'm going to try it for 21 days. The fuck you are. Like, no, you have to try this and be committed to a change in lifestyle. Like, no more fucking around. We are getting older. Okay. And like, I feel like I'm talking to you because, you're probably like aged. I'm 44, right? Like, I had to start figuring this out in my late 30s after my third and fourth pregnancies. Things changed. And like right now, how I'm adapting to nutrition is so much different than even a year ago. So I have to recognize that as information, but I am not going to go, oh, well, that's not working anymore. Screw it. Now I'm going to go chase something else. Nope. I have to redirect and find and just tweak my macros so that my body starts to kind of refire up and go, okay. And for me, that just might be subbing out foods that I've gotten really accustomed to. Okay. Because I'm a creature of habit. Like, I like simple things. I don't want to change things up because I know exactly the foods that I can eat day in and day out that are going to help get me to my most optimal amount of calories that I need per day and matches my macros as best as possible. Okay. And I don't zero out my macros, and I don't encourage anyone to do that either. That's just not realistic every single day. Unless you're going to be a figure competitor or bodybuilder, like, you have to be a little bit more in tune with those, and a little bit more like managing of them. I'm not, because I'm not that, I don't care. I'm not trying to be a certain, attend a certain event. I'm not trying to grace the stage in a bikini for a competition. Others do, and friends that I have, like, more power to them, because that is hard as hell, and that is a commitment. So, give your buddy a high five if you know that they've done those before, because those are hard. Okay, shoot me a note. Let me know on Instagram what you learned. I'd love it if you left a comment here or shared this episode with somebody that you think it could be helpful with. Everybody always goes through something with a buddy. I love that because it's fun to just kind of trade, but also be accountable. And look for my next master class that will roll out just before my next enrollment of my group coaching. And I'm also setting up small businesses with doing 30-day nutrition challenges as well, which has been a blast to do. And just really getting kind of that camaraderie and that competitive nature out of adults. It's so fun to see what adults will do for stickers, what adults will do for like a stamp, because we do gamify it. So if you do work for somebody that you could present this to, I'd love the introduction. Or if you own a company and you've got anywhere from, 10 to 10 plus employees, we're working through that with some bigger options as well. So I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to hearing from you guys and what you thought of the episode. And until then, I'll be back soon with some amazing interviews in the future. So as you see or hear people that you think would be great to be interviewed on the episode, or if that's you, I'd love it if you shot me an email, explained who it is or who you are, so we can see if you're a good fit for an upcoming episode. All right? You guys are awesome. You have a great rest of your day. Bye.